Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're tackling, well, a pretty fascinating claim. It sort of flips the script on how we usually think about wealth. Our mission, to really analyze these sources, suggesting financial freedom might be less about, grinding harder
Yeah.
and maybe much more about neuro-reprogramming, tuning your brain, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we hear it all the time, don't we? Save more, work more, cut back on the lattes. But for a lot of people, it feels like hitting a wall, a ceiling you just can't break. So our sources today suggest maybe it's internal. Maybe you feel stuck because the programming deep inside your head is fighting your efforts. What if the real key isn't a new strategy, but a specific sound, a brainwave frequency?
That's exactly the idea we're digging into. Yeah. We're looking hard at the claims around this Billionaire Brain Wave program. The source material talks about something called wealth DNA. Now, that sounds a bit out there, maybe metaphorical, but they mean dormant neural pathways, pathways linked to seeing opportunity, to prosperity. And the goal, as they frame it, is to activate those pathways, to actually start thinking and acting like someone who builds wealth naturally.
Okay, let's unpack that. Before we jump to sound making people rich, let's ground this a bit. What does neuroscience actually say about our money habits? Where do they come from?
Well, the neuroscience angle here is really fundamental. Studies confirm something pretty staggering. The subconscious mind, it drives up to like 95% of our thoughts, our beliefs, our actions. Think about that number, 95%. So your relationship with money, whether you save or spend or take risks, it's mostly running on autopilot, deeply ingrained patterns.
Right. So if I've spent years consciously trying to save, maybe start a side business,
Yeah.
but I keep messing it up somehow.
Yeah.
It's the 95% subconscious program undermining the 5% conscious plan. Is that the idea?
That's precisely it. Yeah. If you grew up hearing money's tight or, rich people are greedy, that belief gets embedded down at that 95% level, and it dictates what happens. And this, the sources argue, is the big difference when you look at wealthy individuals. It's not that they're inherently smarter. It's that their brains are supposedly wired differently, wired for abundance. They see possibilities where others just see problems or roadblocks. They recognize patterns for success.
That distinction feels really important. It implies that if your foundation is shaky, no amount of positive thinking or sheer effort on top is going to fix it. Okay, so now let's get into the how. The sources claim this shift happens through specific sound frequencies. This is where it gets really interesting. What sounds are we talking about and why?
So the core mechanism they talk about involves using theta brainwave frequencies, specifically frequencies centered right around 7.83 hertz. Now, theta waves, maybe you've heard of them, they're linked to really deep relaxation. Think deep meditation or that state just before you fall asleep, REM sleep, even hypnosis. When your brain is in that theta state, the conscious mind, the critical doubting part kind of steps back. It becomes less dominant. This makes the subconscious much more receptive to new information, new programming. The claim is this frequency opens the door for those wealth-positive inputs.
And that specific number, 7.83 hertz, the sources link it to something called the Schumann resonance. What's that? And, why would the Earth's magnetic frequency impact my bank balance? That sounds a bit sci-fi.
It does sound a bit unusual, yeah. The Schumann resonance is basically the Earth's own electromagnetic frequency, like a heartbeat almost. The sources propose that we as humans are naturally sort of tuned to this frequency, or we should be, and that the 7.83 hertz is deeply connected to states like creativity, intuition, insight, deep subconscious shifts. So the theory is listening to this specific frequency acts like a tuning fork. It brings your brain back into sync with this natural abundance wavelength, and that helps clear out the self-sabotage.
Okay. That's a really extraordinary claim. But wait, if this frequency is natural, if it's the Earth's pulse, it's all around us, right? So how does listening to a 7-minute audio file give us something special that we're not already getting just by, walking around outside?
That's a really good question, a critical point. The program creators seem to address this by saying that, well, modern life interferes. All the electromagnetic smog, the constant stress, the way we live, it throws our brains out of sync with that natural resonance. So they suggest the audio provides a pure, focused dose. It's designed to kind of force that synchronization, activate those wealth DNA pathways they talk about. It's like an intentional tuning session to cut through the noise.
Okay, an intentional tuning session. Got it. So let's assume this synchronization idea holds. Walk us through what the sources say happens inside. What are the steps when someone listens to the 7-minute audio daily?
Right. They outline basically a 4-stage process. Cognitive restructuring, they call it. That happens over time with regular listening. First, and this is probably the most important step, reprogramming limiting beliefs. Because your brain's in that receptive theta state,
Hmm.
those deep-seated blocks like I'll never get ahead or money is hard to earn, they start to dissolve. They get replaced by more empowering beliefs about wealth. It's meant to shift the inner script. Second, and this involves a specific part of the brain, it supposedly activates the reticular activating system, or RAS. The RAS, it's a bundle of nerves right in
Yeah.
your brainstem, and it acts as your brain's filter for what gets your attention. It controls what you notice.
Ah, like when you buy a new car, say a red one, and suddenly you see red cars everywhere. That's the RAS.
Exactly that. Perfect example. So the claim here is that by using this frequency and the associated programming, the RAS gets retrained to start filtering for financial information, for opportunities. Your brain literally starts noticing things, investment ideas, business connections, market gaps that were invisible before because your RAS wasn't looking for them. Third, this naturally leads to alignment with the wealth frequency. Your mind syncs up. People report feeling more intuitive about money decisions, less anxiety, more confidence. And finally, that results in a boost in motivation and confidence. When that internal conflict, that self-sabotage eases up, your external actions change. Users report feeling more energized, more productive, because fundamentally they start to believe success is actually possible for them, maybe even inevitable.
It really sounds like the shift is from seeing potential opportunities as scary or risky to seeing them as, well, challenges you can actually solve.
Yeah.
Okay, let's tackle the big question. Traditional self-help, vision boards, affirmations, we've all heard of them, maybe tried them. The source material seems to suggest they often don't work. Why not, based on this frequency idea?
Yeah, and this brings us back to that 95% number. It's critical here. Traditional methods like repeating I am wealthy primarily engage the conscious mind, that top 5% layer. So you can stare at your vision board for hours, consciously trying to believe you're rich. But if that massive 95% subconscious part is still running a program of scarcity or fear, you've got this constant internal battle. The systems are fighting. And the subconscious, well, it usually wins. The billionaire brainwave approach, they claim, bypasses that conscious filter. It goes straight for the subconscious using the theta state. They're not trying to consciously convince you of anything. The idea is to rewire the underlying system so that conflict between what you want and what you deeply believe just disappears.
Right, rewiring rather than just peepering over the cracks. Okay, let's talk results then, the anecdotes. What about Sarah, the nurse? What did her breakthrough actually look like according to the sources?
Okay, so Sarah was 38, a nurse, working really tough shifts, paycheck to paycheck, lots of financial anxiety. And even though she was smart, hardworking, she felt paralyzed by fear whenever it came to money decisions beyond just paying the bills. The source emphasizes her shift wasn't about sudden luck. It wasn't winning the lottery. It was that the fear, that internal paralysis, it just stopped.
So the program didn't hand her cash, it gave her mental space, clarity.
Exactly. That's how it's presented. She started the daily listening, and she described this feeling of mental quietness. The fear-driven thoughts just weren't as loud. And with that clarity, her RAS presumably kicked in. She started noticing opportunities. She felt this urge to learn about passive income, actually took steps to learn investing. And eventually, the story goes, she acquired 2 rental properties. Her own quote sums it up. I stopped fearing money and started seeing it as energy. The program supposedly gave her the confidence to act.
Wow, okay. And then there's James, the entrepreneur. Business is failing. That's a story a lot of people can relate to.
Yeah, James's issue wasn't bad ideas, apparently. It was self-doubt, scattered focus, making decisions based on anxiety, not strategy. The sources claim that after using this method, the change was internal first. He reported feeling much clearer, more focused, and this deep sort of foundational belief in himself started to emerge. So he took that new internal state, applied it externally, rebranded his business with real focus, cut the things that weren't working, and implemented strategies with confidence. And the result? He went from struggling to earning a 6-figure income. His takeaway really nails their whole argument. The difference wasn't my marketing, it was my mindset. I finally started thinking like someone who knew they would win.
So it positions this brainwave thing as the leverage point, the thing that makes all the other efforts, marketing, investing, whatever, actually start working effectively. Okay, so for anyone listening who's intrigued by this, let's get practical. What does the daily ritual actually involve? How do you do the 7-minute brain tune-up?
Right, they stress simplicity and consistency, making it easy to absorb into the subconscious. It's basically 3 steps, ideally done first thing in the morning. First is just the morning ritual itself. Listen to the 7-minute audio track. You need to be relaxed, but you don't need to be in some complex meditative pose. Just listen and absorb the frequency. Second, they add a layer of gratitude focus. While listening, you mentally list, say, 3 things you're genuinely grateful for. The sources suggest this is key. It amplifies your vibration, aligns you with positive emotion, ensures the new programming takes root in abundance, not lack. And the third step is to set an abundance intention, a simple affirmation but stated proactively. Something like, today I attract opportunities that lead to wealth and freedom. So it's that daily combo, the frequency, the gratitude, the clear intention. That's what supposedly does the rewiring over time.
Frequency, gratitude, intention. Got it. So zooming out again, connecting this neuro reprogramming idea to the big picture of financial success. What's the fundamental mindset difference that millionaires supposedly have, which this program claims to unlock for anyone?
The core idea, the way they synthesize it all, it boils down to one word: alignment. The sources argue that millionaires or financially successful people operate without that internal friction. Their thoughts, their emotions, their actions, they're all harmoniously tuned to abundance. They don't have the 95% subconscious block fighting their 5% conscious desires. So the billionaire brainwave, it's positioned less as magic money and more as neuroenergy reprogramming, a tool to activate that potential we all supposedly have, the hidden wealth DNA. It's about giving you access to the psychological patterns, the mindset that leads to consistent financial success and innovation.
Okay, that brings us towards the end of this deep dive. We've covered quite a bit. The huge role of the subconscious, that 95% driver, the specific frequency targeted, 7.83 hertz, the Schumann resonance connection, and the claim that activating the RAS is what makes those financial opportunities suddenly visible.
Right. And the source material really pushes this idea that wealth isn't just about external factors, it's fundamentally about your internal state, your mindset, your energy, your vibration. So if you feel like something inside you is constantly holding you back financially, this approach claims that tuning your brain, getting it onto the right frequency, makes abundance almost an inevitable outcome, a side effect of that mental alignment. So the provocative thought maybe to leave you with is this: what does that kind of true conflict-free alignment actually look like in your own daily thoughts and actions right now? And maybe, what crucial opportunities do you think your RAS might currently be filtering out?
A very compelling and, challenging question to ponder. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. See you next time.